Hello everyone, I'm Michael, and today, I'm going to tell you a story. Boys, be honest, what makes a girl instantly unattractive? Story 1. Posting their boobs and ass on social media or flipping off the camera or acting ghetto or trashy, and also smoking and drinking. But it's only the way you smoke or drink, like if you get drunk and show your tits or something, but IDK, cause girls don't usually act or do anything like that. Maybe sometimes they do it. Story 2. Constantly talking about an ex, even in a derogatory manner. Let it go. I think this is definitely situational. I have a mate who was with her ex from the age of 14-15 until she was in her mid-20s, now in her late 20s, and she speaks about her ex a lot, so I asked her why one day, and she explained that every story she has from those years contains him. Every movie she's seen between 15 and 25 was with him. Every meal she ate between 15 and 25 was beside him. Every time she done anything between the ages of 15 and 25, he was there, so it's hard for her to share anything about what are supposed to be the best years of her life without him being in the story. I used to get really annoyed with her for constantly talking about him, but now I feel sad for her because she wasted her late teens and early 20s with a man glued to her hip. Another story. A friend of mine once got drunk and confessed to me that she was angry I never made a pass at her when we first met. She said it made her feel ugly or boring, and she only really wanted to hang out with me at first to try and get me to hook up. She's quite pretty and hardly boring, BTW. The first time we met, she was loaded on blow and non-stop talking shit about people I didn't know, including her ex. Which, if you know it, you know it's about as obnoxious as it gets. I knew more about these dudes by the end of the night than I know about my brother, including what they looked like and what they were into. Turns out she's into white boys who look like me and into shit like me. I found her beyond obnoxious, but she kept hanging around and we got along eventually. She then asked if there was still a chance. I said no, because I know how the story ends, and frankly, if the genders were switched, it would be a hard pass anyway. I'm not going to play with your emotions for a quick hit. I'm a grown-ass man. Do better. Story 3. A lack of impulse control. I'd say the most obvious and fairly common sign of this is having no capacity to save their own money. If you have a few hundred left over after paying all your bills, but every time you manage to find a way to spend every cent of it by the end of the week on frivolous things and need to go searching for someone to bail you out, you may as well be wearing a red flag as a cape everywhere you go. It's a huge sign of immaturity and impulsiveness, and a huge nope from me, dog. Budgeting should be lesson number 1 of adulting. If they haven't learned it yet, they're too immature, and they'll just take you down with them if you stay. Story 4. Laughing at your attempts to spend time with them. Asking how to make boys like them after already expressing implicitly you are interested. When your niece asks if they're your girlfriend, and they jokingly respond, "Not yet," when you can't have a regular conversation, if money isn't involved because you're not interesting enough. When they ask for advice, then blatantly badmouth you for not just letting them vent. Story 5. I'll be completely honest here, and I apologize in advance to anyone I offend. Girls who have mega anxiety about multiple things. I understand that there are people out there with real mental conditions that become anxious very easily, but many girls I've met are just faking it for pity points or to control you. And that I find to be super rude to people with real conditions, and very annoying because you can't reason with them or do many things with them almost. There are things that a person should reasonably be anxious about, and then there's ridiculous anxieties that are obviously fake. This type of girl also doesn't make a relationship that lasts long, at least for me. So I find that why should I waste my time in a relationship it is going to end soon? Big turn off personally. Story 6. Mental instability and not doing anything to help herself. I get that people can be depressed, anxious, or whatever. But it's a huge turnoff for me to have to cater to someone who is needy because I'm so anxious. Drink water, get some exercise. You sat around and did nothing all day, so of course you're going to feel anxious, depressed. I can have sympathy if you're trying, but if you're not, then go away. That, and having no hobbies. I'm a busy person, so if you're sitting around waiting for me to be done my work hobby, you're going to be disappointed. Story 7. My roommate went on a date with this girl. As they were driving, she was taking fireball shooters and tossing them out the window. In my book, I would have just told her to get out right there. Littering is the worst. But it got worse. She asked him to pull over. She gets out of the car, squats down, and starts peeing while still making eye contact with my roommate. My poor roommate was so down bad from a dry spell that he still went on another date with her. Story 8. An inability to introspect. Also, when describing a situation with another person, assuming said other person's thoughts, feelings, and motives. To me, it shows she, or really anyone I'm talking to, assumes what other people are thinking, feeling, and states what she believes as factual, because no one can know what anyone else is thinking or feeling. Always makes me feel like I'm going to be next. I could be the happiest person in the world, but she thinks I am sad, thus in her world, I'm not happy, when in reality, I am happy. Or, say I have a very stable and healthy relationship with another friend. In her world, she sees the relationship as bad and my friend is enabling me to continue what she thinks is poor behavior. The relationship with my friend is fine, but she will continue to press that my friend is enabling and bad for XYZ manufactured reasons. If she cannot look within her own thoughts and feelings and say, I should trust the feedback I have received instead of asserting my own, then it's a huge red flag. It shows she cannot separate what she wants from reality, so she continuously asserts her own reality and cannot separate herself from others. Boiled down to the simplest form, it's when she cannot accept that other people are separate from her and she may never understand their thoughts, feelings, and motivations. Story 9. Being rude or disrespectful without a reason. I've been bad about this, more so than I initially realized. I began to really see it when I was at a grocery store with some friends one day. One of them was someone I was sorta talking to. It was crowded, so I may have been overwhelmed, but at one point I yelled at a cashier while waiting to check out because he had let some people go through his lane right after saying it was closed. I regretted it approximately 2 seconds after I did it. Shortly after that, this friend I was talking to started dating one of my other friends and later told me that I'm mentally unstable. Thankfully, we're still friends, but I'll never forget being told that. It felt like being hit by a bus, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there might be some truth to it. I don't necessarily believe in the idea that you have to love yourself before loving someone else, but I have a lot of self-hate and other long repressed garbage that I think I need to work on with a professional before I can have a healthy relationship with someone. It may take a long time, but I feel like I owe it to both myself and to others. Story 10. I had a coworker that I had a bit of a crush on. Now, let me be upfront here. I don't think anyone will ever call me unattractive. If anyone ever told me they were out of my league, I'd probably laugh in their face. But this girl, let's call her Glenda, was mind-blowingly hot. Just a 10 tenths. I woke up like this every single day. Being a pragmatist, I assumed that she must already be in a relationship. But, being the insidious little worm that I am, I decided I'd get to know her anyway. I chatted with her pretty regularly for a few weeks. We actually had a fair bit in common, and it seemed like she was falling for my wiles. Eventually, I learned that she was single. Who could believe it? She sat at a desk on the other side of our row of cubicles, so I had never really gotten up close to her before. I wasn't really sure how to proceed because not only am I a worm, but I also might have mild Wikipedia disease. Then one day, during the lunch hour, opportunity kicks in my door, throws a bag over my head, and drags me off into the night. We go to a local brewery. Why are there so fucking many of these? For lunch. To my surprise, Glenda literally shoves one of her coworkers out of the way so that she can sit next to me. This brewery was a pretty gross place, so I couldn't smell much at the time. Until, at one point, she leaned over towards me, really close. And it hits me. My sisters and brothers, basking together in the glow of our Dark Lord Satan. I tell you, Glenda smelled like piss. Stale piss. Now, I accept that people can have bad days. Maybe she stepped in something. Maybe she just has an especially vile and heavy period. Maybe she pissed herself with excitement several days ago. It could be anything, right? No? Going forward, I discovered that Glenda smells like piss every single day. Like clockwork, as sure as she is hot from a distance, she will make you retch up close. I don't know what to do. I just sort of gradually noped out of the whole thing. I was still polite and conversational, but I shut down any attempt to get physically close to me. She eventually asked a coworker who I was friends with about it, and that fucking coward said he didn't know. He knew. Story 11. She treats animals and waiters service or retail staff badly. You can easily judge the character of a person by how they treats those who can do nothing for them. Some old-time dude, debatable who exactly first said it. Had a variation of this conversation with my 9-year-old this morning. She has a friend who is a lovely, kind, and gentle human, except that she is very rough with animals and plays with them in ways that could hurt, or at the very least, scare them. Daughter was horrified by her friend's behavior. I explained that her family don't view animals the same way we do in our home, so when she is around our pets, we need to make an effort to model gentle and respectful handling, and if she is being too rough, I will verbally spell it out for her. My daughter said she is a really good person who just doesn't know better, and it got me wondering at what age does that reasoning no longer cut it? I would never excuse adults mishandling animals or treating them cruelly, so at what point do we start holding people accountable for kindnesses that they were never taught? Story 12. Weekend. She said she wanted to meet up at 3:30 for food and maybe a beer. 3:30 rolls around. I call her to tell her I'm picking her up. She says she's not ready. At 4 she tells me to go ahead and go to the diner myself and she'll meet me. So I go on. 4:30 she's texting me about stuff. Says she's not ready yet. Getting clothes on still. About 4:45, I decide fuck it. I'm already out of the house. I'm going to walk around to some of the other bars. I text her and tell her to let me know when she's on her way because I might not be sitting there. I'm about to give up and go home and she texts me and says she's nearly there at 5:15 or something. So I go back to the bar. She shows up in 5:45. I literally walk past her as I'm leaving to go home. This isn't some woman I know really well. It was a first date. As far as I can tell from what she was saying over text, she was late because she was playing with her blog. Story 13. Entitlement. This is exactly why me and my ex broke up. She just started doing what she wanted without care for the consequences. She wasn't always like that, but as we both grew she developed the bad bitch, her words not mine, energy. She would often just leave the house without telling me that she was leaving. She lied to me for weeks about a party she was going to, telling me it was just dinner with her BFF and her family, just so she could go see a guy that's 6 years older than us, and tried to date her when she was 15. She oftentimes would say mean or hurtful things and just expect me to brush it off. And a lot more that's too painful for me to bring up. Only been single for 4 months. Story 14. Using self-love as an excuse to be narcissistic and shitty. Self-love is also the hard stuff. Like making a dentist appointment even though you dislike the dentist. Taking time to clean to give yourself a clean home to live in. Budgeting to ensure that your money is being used effectively to care for your needs and set up for the future. Taking your medications regularly and consistently, even when it's inconvenient, aka you're already in bed and sleepy, but you forgot your PM meds and have to get up to take them. The excuse of self-love is always the treat and never the chore. I find that it's a red flag when people use self-love as a reason to treat themselves but never seem to care for themselves. Story 15. One of the first things she asks is how much money do I earn? This has been around forever, not the last few years lol. Let's not try to berate women too much for it. But yes, shouldn't be the first thing she asks. It's not usually asking are you rich, but are you motivated, a good enough person to keep a job where you need to be trusted? The true red flags are expecting you to pay for everything. But I'd flip the question on them. What do you do for a living? I'm at least glad now that I earn enough to be independent and financially responsible, but I'd still err on the side of hesitation if a guy is constantly job hopping. If a guy works in retail or a cafe all his life and he's happy with that, fine by me. Story 16. If she has no sense of direction in life or depth of character, that is very unattractive. A personality beyond what's on Netflix and the current buzz on Twitter is what I find attractive. A lot of girls are missing depth and character. A lot of guys too, people in general. People nowadays either lack depth or are too insecure that they hide their depth and passion. I say we all run wildly towards who we are in our hearts, and not towards what the masses and or apps are screaming we should be. Discover yourself and your direction in this life, and don't be afraid to be the good that you are. Have and protect some morals and values. Spend a less time on social apps and more time reading and checking in on your loved ones. Give to the less fortunate. Learn a new skill and nerd out over it. Stop updating your story every 20 minutes. Escape the attention economy. Believe in something higher. Look past society. Take accountability for your reality. Love passionately and stand up for good in the world.